Welcome to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I am Kelly and my co-host is James. What's up, dude?
What's up, my sister?
What's going on?
You know.
No, I don't know. What's going on?
I'm just hanging out. I'm excited for this episode.
Yeah, you know what? It's nice and refreshing to kind of take a step away from the woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
And maybe just talk about some other crazy shit, like, you know, comic books, bourbon, and I don't know, cigars.
That's a good segue.
You know, into our guest. You know, we actually have a guest who is an expert in just that: comics, bourbon, and cigars. And his name is Lincoln Chinnery III.
And Mr. Chinnery is going to come on and give us some insight into these three things.
And what are those three things?
Comics, bourbon, and stogies.
Comics, bourbon, and stogies. So I'm excited. You ready to get to it?
Let's do it.
Welcome to the podcast, our guest, Lincoln Chinnery.
So, listeners, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I'm the James part of that equation, and my co-host is Kelly.
I am the Kelly
How are
part.
you?
Hi.
Right on. Our guest today is Lincoln Chinnery. We brought him on so he could give us some expertise and his words of wisdom on comics, bourbon, and cigars. Is that right, Lincoln?
Yes, it is. I want to thank both of you for having me on today. This is
welcome.
All of that combined is crazy shit if you put it all together. You know, bourbon, cigars, and comic books all together could really be an interesting conversation.
It always is, and I think a perfect day for me is when I combine all three, like just outside, a good bourbon, a good cigar, and a nice trade. I don't like to, I have a decent collection, and like the floppies, the single issues, I keep boarded and boxed, all sealed up. But my trade publications, an omnibus, that's what I take outside to read, so that, you know, I'm not worried. I'm not trying to ruin the value of my originals.
I get you. So, Lincoln, if we were going to sit down and have some bourbon with you and have a cigar and discuss comics, what bourbon, what cigar, and what comics are we doing?
All right. So, in regards to bourbon, I have a personal philosophy. I try not to tell people what bourbon they should have, because what bourbon I like is based on my palate and my wallet. And my palate and wallet is completely different than anyone else's. But if you tell me, look, I like a mid-range. I like something not too heavy or too dark. You know, I'll point you towards Bullet. I'll point you towards Woodford, something semi-sweet. But if you're like, oh, you know, I only drink X, you know, I chase unicorns, then it's like, listen, you go get some Pappy Van Winkle. I'll wait here for 2 years until you can afford to buy a bottle, and then we'll start drinking. Comic books, it depends what you're into. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Marvel, DC, Image, they're very loyal to a house. I am all over the place. I've been collecting since comics were 35 cents. So
still 35 cents on the cover, huh?
Yep. You know, it's like I got my original Miss Marvel 1 through 5. I got my original She-Hulks and all of that. So I mean, it depends what you like. I mean, are you? For me, if I wanted to get someone just their toes wet, I'd go with the classic JLA Watchtower issues. Like that set is nice if you want to go a little more modern. Oh my goodness, Giffen DeMatteis. Giffen and DeMatteis's run on the Justice League is funny and inviting. Like, you'll read it and it's not just bang, pow. It's actual jokes that land solid and like a good team book. Like, they make fun of themselves. They make fun of the Avengers. Like, there's one issue where Captain Adams starts yelling, "Justice League, assemble!" And the rest of the team's like, what? What is that? Who does that? So it's, yeah. Cigars, I'm gonna say something light. Araki Patel is always nice. I tend to like something robust. Oh my goodness, why am I? Oh, sorry. I just remembered. I did finish. Oh, here we go. The Whiskey Row Rabbit Hole PX Sherry Cask Aged Cigars. If I can do a little product placement from Diesel. I just finished those. Very, very good. Long burn, just delicious. Nice peppery smoke. Can't go wrong.
All right, now we all are sitting down. We have our drinks and our cigars. Kelly, what question do you want to hit Lincoln with?
So now that I've got my cigar and my bourbon, the first thing I'm going to ask you is about bourbon, because I don't know anything about bourbon, right? So before we get into comic books, and I need to understand, how am I drinking this bourbon? Am I sipping it? Are we taking shots? What are we doing with bourbon, and how do you make it? What is it made from?
All right, so I'm going to start with how someone should approach bourbon. Again, it's a matter of personal taste. If you tell me the only way you can drink bourbon is with ice, or the only way you can drink it is neat, then that's fine, that's you. I think if you're just starting out with bourbon, find a nice mid-range bottle, $35, $50, pour 3 fingers into a glass, just a drop or 2 of filtered water to open it up, and then just sip and try it. The best way to learn how to drink bourbon is to learn how to drink bourbon, and then you find your palate, you find what you like. I was at a bar once, and it was at a construction party, and there was all these old guys and this one young kid, and they're like, oh, let's get around to Johnny Walker. Like, they're just doing scotch left and right. And the kid's like, oh, you know what? I really can't drink it unless there's like a whole lot of ice in it. So like the bartender, like just a ton of ice in this glass for about maybe 2 ounces of scotch. And the kid's like, yeah, that's the way I like to drink it. And part of me thought, if you have to do all of that to drink scotch, maybe you don't like drinking scotch.
Right.
You know, and it's like, you know, but like he was bullied into drinking this thing a way that he thought he should drink it, when actually he just said, you know what, I'm not a scotch person. Let me, you know, just give me a cocktail, give me a beer, you know. And I think that's something that people have to learn about drinking. It's like, you have to be who you are when you're drinking. You have to be you, because if you try to be, or you try to fit into another mold, you will wind up unhappy and wrecked. So it goes to, I guess, my original point. You have to pick a bourbon for you. You can listen to recommendations, you can read all the reviews, but you have to pick a bourbon for you. So, like, Kelly, what's your palate like? What do you like to drink?
I am a gin drinker. That's my favorite. I like gin. So I don't like, you know, I'm not a dark, a whiskey, bourbon, scotch. I never acquired a taste for it.
That's fine. So therefore, I'm not going to recommend you drink any bourbon. I'm following my philosophy. If you're a gin woman, listen, you and I can hang out all day. I was doing gin and tonics last night. Okay. Brooklyn Gin, local favorite that I love. Let's see. All right, so I have Brooklyn Gin is a local favorite. I have an emotional favorite, which is Tanqueray. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't.
I like Tanqueray as well.
Okay, some people don't, and they think, it's Tanqueray. I have an emotional connection to Tanqueray. Years ago, so let's say the 90s, Tanqueray would throw these event parties in New York City, and it would just be like a venue, and you'd be on this list. You would show up, you'd make a donation, let's say like $5, $10. Go in, open bar and Tanqueray drinks for a good hour. Then they sat you down for dinner. You had dinner, and while you're having dinner, you learned about the history of Tanqueray, gin, quinine. Like it was a nice way to meet people who like gin and learn about it. After dinner, there's another 30-minute open bar. So you're still networking, you're hanging out, you're drinking with people. And at the end of it, you leave and they give you 2 free bottles of Tanqueray. This went on for years in New York City, and I was lucky enough to get on the list early. And I went to just about every last one of them. I took my friends, I took family, I took anyone that loved gin and wanted a good time. And that instilled my emotional attachment to Tanqueray gin. I love the taste of it. I don't think there's a mistake Tanqueray could make that I wouldn't forgive them for. But that's my emotional attachment.
Yes, I do love me some Tanqueray. Yes, I do love gin.
I'm not in. This might cause a fight later with some people, but I'm not an aviation gin fan. Like I like Ryan Reynolds, but I don't love aviation gin. It doesn't work well in martinis, and yeah. So wait, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I thought that's interesting. I don't drink gin, so this is nice to know.
Oh, okay. Well, I go both ways when it comes to gin and bourbon. Like I can go on about either. I will say, if you're just like relaxing and you want to relax with comic books and cigars, then if bourbon's not your thing, the G&T is easy to make. I mean, how can you screw up a gin and tonic?
It's really hard to. It's really hard to. Really hard. So
and
I would have my gin and tonic, right?
That's fine.
You would have your bourbon. James,
Yeah.
Are you drinking bourbon as well?
Well, I might try it because I don't drink a lot of bourbon, but my spirit of choice is rum.
There's nothing wrong with a good rum.
rum.
There's nothing wrong with a good rum. I will say Don Q, Florida Cana are 2 of the ones that I go to. I'm not a Bacardi person. Again, I'm probably starting another fight. But Bacardi is. I was told an inside story about Bacardi a long time ago that I'm not going to repeat because it's never been backed up. But it turned me off of Bacardi.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to lay out there, Lincoln, and not have me say, "Well, God, you gotta share."
Okay, so I haven't, from an unconfirmed source.
That's perfect.
All right, from an unconfirmed source that during a certain time, and I don't know if this is still true, Bacardi is only bottled in Puerto Rico. It's not made in Puerto Rico. So for it to say, "Hey, we're a Puerto Rican rum," is like, "Hey, but you're not made there. You're made somewhere else." And this unconfirmed source told me that. I gotta put this delicately. That Bacardi is a byproduct of another rum company.
Interesting.
Yeah, and again, it's an unconfirmed source, but hearing that story from someone who is in the industry and has represented different rums made me shy away.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Well, that
again,
is interesting. When I was in Puerto Rico, I went by the party place. I didn't go on the tour, but I'm interested. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, because seriously, I have not been either, so that's why it's my unconfirmed source. If I go down there and see that they're making rum and doing it themselves, I'm gonna say, oh, you know what, so and so, you were wrong. Or I go down there and I see exactly what I said, and it's like, oh yeah, okay.
See,
And you can always look at the bottle and say, wait a minute, it says imported, it doesn't say distilled there. You know, like
I never knew the difference between the wording, so that's good to know.
Yeah, but listen, here's the other thing, and it goes back to my other point. If you like Bacardi, drink Bacardi. You know, it's like no matter what I can say, like I can give you my opinion, yeah, but seriously, if you like drinking Bacardi, drink Bacardi.
That's why we're here, so everyone can share their, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I will say Appleton's a good rum. Chairman Reserve. Wow, blanking on my rums. I'll leave my rum list at that. Chairman Reserve, Appleton, Don Q, and Florida Cana.
I'll have to try them.
Nice. So my question on the comic book would be, with all of the comic books that they're turning into live action, what comic book would you like to see turned into live action that currently isn't live action?
All right, there's an old favorite of mine, and it's obscure. Like, you have to be a real. First of all, the book doesn't involve superheroes at all. It's a book called Cinder and Ash. It was put out by DC Comics, let's say late 80s. It's a Vietnam vet and this girl that he adopted. And it was a 4-part miniseries. And it just revolved around the trauma of war, them working as fixers, and an old enemy from the past. And it was just so well written and just done perfectly that, like, when I read it, I was just like, this needs to be a movie. This needs to be a TV show. Something needs to happen with it. And I know no one has picked it up. Like, it's just been sitting there. I still have my original issues. And every once in a while, I'll go on Twitter and someone will say, oh yeah, I picked up this thing. And I'm just like, oh my God, it should be a movie. This is the greatest thing ever. I want to say Jerry Orway, or
What's the name of it again? Say the name again.
Cinder and Ash.
Cinder and
Cinder and Ash.
Cool.
AS, yeah, it's a very good book, well drawn. It's not for kids, I gotta be honest with you, but it's just one of those books that stands out in my head. And I've read a lot of comic books, so I would say that's my first. I think, like, all the popular stuff has been done. Like, anyone says, oh, you know, I need to see an X-Men movie or an X-Men cartoon. It's like, listen, you got like 30 to choose from, so I mean, why would you need a new one? What I think, like, the stuff from Image that I like, but I don't know if, like, Savage Dragon, I don't know if that would translate well. You know, I'm gonna stick to my original answer and just say Cinder and Ash. It's just one of those books that needs to be shared with everyone.
Nice.
No,
All right,
that
James.
leads me to
Wait,
I
wait,
have a
James.
question now.
Wait, hold on, James. I have the same question for you.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Same question for you. So, again, with all the comic books that have been turned into live action, what would you like to see that has not been turned into live action?
Oh, damn. Does it have to be just comic book, or can it be animated?
Well, if it's animated, it's turned into something, so it's got to be a comic book that you want to see them translate into a movie, since that seems to be the trend these days. You know, that seems where everybody is going for their content, is comic books. So if you could choose, if you could go out there and scout comic books and decide to turn one into a movie, what would that be?
All right, so if I were to do just, I don't know if I could do just one. This would be my plan. I would like to do something like the Avengers did with Secret War, or all that, but with Secret Wars, where, and I don't know if this would translate, Lincoln, so, but it's the ultimate, there's a, person with this ultimate power, the Beyonder. He collects heroes, he collects villains, puts them on this planet,
Right.
and they battle it out. And it went over the course of a year. It hit all the different, characters. I would like to do something like that.
I would love to see that, but the thing is, Marvel shot themselves in the foot by doing that Venom movie, because the Secret Wars is the origin of that Spider-Man suit. So it's like,
Right.
if that comes out, someone's gonna be like, "But wait a minute, Venom is in San Francisco," and you'll lose so many people. And I know I just started, but don't get me started on that Venom movie. Sorry, I'm not a fan.
Oh, we can go there on the Venom movie because we know.
Yeah,
How do you have a Spider-Man spinoff not set in New York? Like it's hi, I'm Peter Parker. I live in New York. I live in, it's like.
Yeah, isn't he from Brooklyn?
He's from Queens.
Queens?
Wait.
Yeah, Queens, yeah.
No, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, he's from Brooklyn.
Is he from Brooklyn?
Wait.
I think he is. Because isn't Captain America from Brooklyn?
Yes, that's it. I'm sorry. So how does this suit go from Queens to San Francisco? Like, and then, no. That Venom movie, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan.
Well, I always thought Venom was a villain, and it seemed that when he got his own movie, he wasn't really a villain to me.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like Marvel worked so hard, but just having him in everything, that he became like an anti-hero. He's like the good bad guy.
Right.
He showed up everywhere, and then it's like, well, it's the suit really. So whoever wears the suit can be Venom, and now Venom's a good guy because this good person's wearing a suit. Or the tragedy behind Venom is so horrible that Venom has to become the hero. And it's just like, do I need another hero? Can we just have a villain?
Nothing wrong with having a good villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Harley Quinn, but her arc into I have to be good because X, Y, and Z. It's like, listen, why wasn't Harley Quinn just Harley Quinn? Why can't evil be evil and good be good? I mean, I know it's not black and white, but at a certain point, it's like every other villain is becoming a hero.
Right.
Well, it seems like when they give these villains their own movies, they almost have to be their own hero.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to add on to that with even in the comic books, the whole Venom arc is like, as bad as he is, he's the least bad because of the worst thing that's happening to him that makes him a hero. It's like even with the X-Men, it's like all of a sudden Magneto's a good guy, but he's still bad. It's yeah.
Well, and that leads me to the next question I have, Lincoln. What's your opinion on them changing canon from the comics to the movies, and then from movies to comics?
I used to hate it. Seriously, it used to anger me to no end. And the person that snapped me out of it is the person that anyone would least suspect. My mother reminded me that when I was young, she and I would watch the Incredible Hulk TV series.
Oh, I have Lou Ferrigno.
Yep. The origin has almost nothing to do with the actual comic. But I loved it. I watched it. I talked about it, and my mother was patient enough to sit there and watch it with me. And then when I started to rant and rave about, oh, well, this isn't the same. It's like, did we used to watch the Incredible Hulk together? And okay, now I'm on board. So it annoys me on some of the decisions. The decision to whitewash characters, that pisses me off. The whole Ancient One, Doctor Strange thing, that was You know, and it's not like Tilda Swinton's a great actress. I have nothing against her. Great, phenomenal actress. And if you wanted to make the Ancient One a woman, all right, fine, you know. But then to say that the Ancient One, say that character is a stereotype, is a little wrong because the character was just a character. And if you would, like, changing the Ancient One to female isn't a big deal for me because it's Ancient One. Okay? It's not like the Ancient Guy and you made it a woman. It's the Ancient One. So you doing a gender switch on that character doesn't annoy me. It's the fact that you just said, well, here's a bucket of white paint, gadoosh, and went from there. But
well, there's a lot of opinions when they were doing the new, I forgot the movie, what's his name, the martial arts guy? 12 Ring or
yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't think of his name. But they were,
I know.
I can't believe they were actually going to consider casting, a white actor. It's like, well, that, like you say, it's not so much, the female gender, whatever, but that's the background of the character.
Yeah. And also, it's like, if you are going to do that, you better bring your A game. And like to hire Tilda Swinton, well, listen, you hired an A game, so fine. But like my to your point, Iron Fist.
Iron Fist, yeah, that was one too.
Oh my God, what a mess. I mean, just poor martial arts, bad acting. I used to call it aluminum fist because it was just, couldn't watch it. And I understand that Danny Rand is not Asian, but you could hire an American actor that actually knows how to fight.
Wasn't that like a series on Netflix or something like that?
That's the one I'm talking about.
The one that came out a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
With that whole, back when Netflix had access to Marvel and they were just cranking out great shows, except for Iron Fist.
Gotcha. Yes. I remember that.
Yeah.
Huh. So this is my other question about comics. So me and James, James knows way more about comics than I do, and I just know what I like, and I tend to be a Batman fan. That is my favorite comic. And we were talking about them making Batman Beyond into a movie, which is a scary thing for me because I feel like they're gonna muck it up as
of course,
Justice League, right?
Yeah.
And all the content for Batman Beyond is already there. It's already written.
Yes.
3 years of content that you can work with, and a couple of movies as well. Already made movies that you could work with. My question to you is, do you think they will muck up Batman Beyond when they put this
I do. Yes, I do. It's, you know what? It's like
unanimous then.
It's like you have this pool of stories. You have an almost infinite pool of stories. And your studio says, I don't like everything about this, but this is cool. This might work. And some of this. And then they put it together and it's like, you're sitting there watching, it's like, what were you thinking? It's like, the best example I have is every origin movie for every comic book. Spider-Man, like all of the origin movies, like the first one is like, here's the origin of Spider-Man. The Batman origins, all of that. If you go back to the 50s and you watch any of the cartoons based on the comic books, the origin is told in less than 30 seconds in the intro. And then it's them having an adventure. Like the early Fantastic Four. Oh, they stole a rocket with the space scammers. Oh, here's the episode. It's like, why are you spending 95 minutes getting them into space? Let's wrap this up. It's like if 12 coked up animators can bang this out, Why does it take 19 writers to give me a 90-minute movie about a story that I've heard before, seen 1,000 times? And honestly, you could drop me in the middle of the Mulan Prophets, and I could say Spider-Man, and they would know the origin.
Yeah.
It's like no one needs the rehash.
Yeah.
But seriously, back to your point, I have a bad feeling they're just gonna pick and choose the cool stuff, put it on screen, and even with that, you're gonna have a writer and a director going, "Well, I like this spin on it. I like that spin on it," and then it's just like, "What the hell am I looking at?" It's unrecognizable. It's like every X-Men movie. It's like every Fantastic Four movie. I mean, honestly, how do you mess up the Fantastic Four?
They did it a bunch of times.
They did
It's like, wait a minute. We have at least 500 issues floating out there, at the least. Let's not use any of the good stuff. Let's just put in our own stuff. It's like, if it was crap, it wouldn't have made it to 500 issues. Maybe stick to the well.
Yeah.
Just John Byrne wasn't crazy when he was working on it. None of them were. Just stick to the well.
We can only hope, though. We can only hope about Batman Beyond. There's still hope. But Lincoln, I want to thank you for being with us today, talking crazy shit about comics. It's always a pleasure when somebody else can join us, because usually it's just me and James. So it's always nice to get that third opinion. Thank you so much.
Listen, anytime. I mean, I'm wide open. Listen, you want to have me on again? We'll go into details about bourbon. We'll go deep into cigars. I'm more willing to talk about comics again, video games. Give me a call. I'm right here for you guys. I'm loving this. I am.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do it. I loved it. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Lincoln. All right, once again, we've had another guest come in and kind of educate us on these things. And it's funny, Kelly, because now we know we're not the only ones who think that DC fucks up stuff.
Well, I'm pretty sure we are not the only one.
Well, yeah, but this kind of gives us confirmation, because in the circles I run around in, we don't talk about this stuff.
That's true. We don't. And, because I love Batman, is near and dear. He's like my favorite comic book character. I thought the trilogy that came out, maybe 10 years ago with Christian Bale was really good. But that's really been it for Batman, right? That's really been it. So maybe Michael Keaton, right? Maybe the Michael Keaton Batman, but
yeah, he was good. I have to admit, he surprised me. He was good, I thought.
The Tim Burton Batman was dark, but not dark and realistic. It was more dark comic bookish, right? Where I felt that, the other ones, who was that? Chris Nolan that did the Dark Knight series. I thought his were dark and realistic, right? And so just a very change.
Comparing, for what they were both very good.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying for what they were very good, but there hasn't been really any justice done. So I worry, I lose sleep at night regarding Batman Beyond, because that was my shit. Love me some Batman Beyond. That
was good. And then I liked when he mentioned the Watchtower, because then it reminded me of the old Justice League animated one. That was good.
Yeah. So it's nice to refreshing to talk, I don't know anything about cigars, so I learned something. Obviously, I could stick with my gin, because I was like, I don't know if I could do bourbon. And, he said, I don't have to, so that's great.
Right on. I was like, okay, well, Kelly don't have to. I don't have to. I'm drinking my Bacardi.
So it turned out great. So I loved having him as a guest. James, I think it's fun when we just can step away a little bit from the woo-woo. But, it will be time to go back to the woo-woo soon enough, as we venture down this road called That's Some Crazy Shit. So you can get us on social media, but the best way to figure out who we are and why we are and what we're doing and what the hell's going on is to go to our website. That's some crazy shit podcast.com. All of our social media links are there. And I'm going to say it again, man, take a minute, be the first, subscribe to YouTube. We're working on some stuff. It's percolating, right?
Yeah. You want to be on the bandwagon when it starts.
Yeah.
No, that's not right. You want to be the builder of the wagon.
Right. And then go out and get people to get on the wagon.
Right.
Yeah. So something like that. Sounds good. At any rate, we are looking to do something with YouTube, possibly, dare I say it, video?
Coming soon?
Video? Season 4?
Teaser.
Yeah. Maybe. So anyway, it's just, hit us up, social media. If you've got some crazy shit you want to share it, go to our website, drop us a line. We'd love to have you as a guest on the podcast. James, it's always a pleasure. I always enjoy our time together. Thank you so much for listening, listeners.
Yep, thank you very much, people. We enjoy you taking the time and helping us out. And, like some of the people have said, maybe this is our calling to get our message out, help people out a little bit. So with that being said, Kelly, should I take us out?
Take us out.
Keep your minds open, people.